Okay, hi there. I'm going to set up this LCD screen for the Arduino. We're going to be able to print data and information from the Arduino to this LCD screen here. There's 16 pins, and I just plugged them straight into a breadboard. And the 16 pins on mine go, well, on all of them go from 1 to 16. And mine starts over here with VSS. I don't know if you can see that very well. Let's see if we can get in there. There you go. So VSS, VDD, V0, RS, RWE, D0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then A and K. A and K stand for anode and cathode. Okay, so those are the pins, and we're going to connect them to our to the breadboard, and we're going to connect to the Arduino board here in just a minute. And to show you why it is we're connecting them and the way we're connecting them, let's get into Arduino, and we're going to open up an example. Go to File, Examples, okay, and then scroll down here where it says Liquid Crystal. Now, if you installed the libraries, auto-installed the libraries when you installed Arduino, this should be here. If not, just do a search for Liquid Crystal library or liquidcrystal.h, and I'm sure that will show you how to install that online. So click on Liquid Crystal and then scroll down to Hello World. Okay, so that opens up a new sketch. We can get rid of the sketch there. All right. And then there's a nice little header file here with lots of comments, and it tells you that the RS pin connects to pin 12 on the Arduino, the enable pin, which is the E pin on the LCD, connects to pin 11, and so on and so on. Okay, so I'm just going to leave that open over here so it reminds us what the pins are. But before we do that, we know that one of the things that always bothered me whenever I was playing with these little devices early on is that they never seemed to work, and it's because you really do need to be able to control the contrast of the screen. Everything could be working, but if the contrast is not right, you just can't see anything. So we control the contrast with this potentiometer, okay, or a pot. It's a 3. This is a I think it's a 10K. 10K pot, okay. And it's got 3 little wires, and we're going to connect that over here. I'm just going to put it in the far left-hand corner. These are kind of fat little connections, so they will ruin your breadboard. So I put it over here in the corner where I don't usually use. Okay, and then one of the leads, one of the outside leads, needs to go to the ground bus, and the other outside lead needs to go to the power bus. So eventually, I'm going to have the red bus here. Is going to be my power bus, and the blue bus on the top is going to be my ground bus. Okay, all right. So now let's just build. I'm going to kind of go out of order because I think it's easier to explain that way. So I'm going to look here at the V0. So it's 1, 2, 3, the third pin. And I've got a blue wire here. That's going to go to the wiper of the potentiometer. That's going to go to the middle lead coming out of the pot. And so now whenever we power this guy up, we'll be able to change the contrast. Okay. The next thing I want to do, is I want to connect the cathode, which in English is spelled K with a C, and in Russian is spelled with a K, and so some boards print it with a K there for cathode. So cathodes, right? I don't like cats. Cats are negative. Cathodes are the ground, negative. Okay, and then the anode of the LED, that's going to power the backlight here. For the anode, I'm just going to grab a 220 ohm resistor, 220 ohm resistor. I'm going to go straight in to power into the anode of my LED. Okay, all right, and so that's set up nicely. Let's see here. We also want the RW pin here that's listed R/W, and on my board it's just RW. That RW pin is going to go to ground. Okay, so that's this pin. It's 2 over from V0. That's going to go to ground. Be really careful. I don't like putting ground and power buses right next to each other. So be especially careful if you so that you don't, mix up the ground and the power. So RW goes to ground there. The VSS pin also goes to ground. Okay, the VSS pin, that's way over here, the far left one. So I'm going to grab a black wire and connect that guy to ground. There's going to be a jumble of wires whenever you're done. Okay, but just go slow and methodically. VSS goes to ground. VCC pin goes to 5 volts, so I'm going to grab a red wire here, and the VCC and the code is really the VDD pin. So what says VCC on the code is VDD on this particular board here. So I'm just going to power that guy. Okay, I'm going to double check as I go because I don't want to turn this thing on and have something explode on me. Okay, so now the first 3 pins are connected. All right. The RS pin, which is the 4th pin right after V0, the RS pin is going to go to pin 12. All right, so now we're going to start connecting our Arduino. So what I've done here is I've connected wires to my Arduino, and I've alternated them so I can kind of tell them apart. So starting with pin 2, I go white, yellow. So pins 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then I come over here and I plug into pin 11 and pin 12 with another white and yellow pin. So these are going to be my signal pins that will be connected to here. All right? Okay, so perhaps we'll start over here at pin number 2. And you can see here that pin 2 gets plugged into D7. All right? So I think it's probably easiest to grab the wire coming off of the Arduino and then go find it on the LCD screen. So pin 2 goes into D7 and double check again as you go. Right. The next pin is pin 3, and that goes into D6. Right. The next pin, make sure you grab the next pin, so this should be a white pin, goes into D5. These kind of go in order, they're backwards order. And then the next pin is pin 5 on the Arduino goes into D4 on the LCD screen. So that looks good. The last 2 pins here are pin 11. You can't really see that here, sorry about that. Pin 11, where are you? Pin 11 goes to the enable pin, and on my board that is the E pin. So pin 11 goes to enable E, which is right next to RW. This guy keeps coming out. I'm not so sure pin 11's doing the trick. And then the last pin is pin 12 on the Arduino goes to the RS pin. RS, which is it's getting really jumbled up there, and I'm going to really double check to make sure that all those wires don't overlap. There's 1 wire in each column, and that's it. They don't have multiple wires in a column. So double check that. Double check everything's connected. Okay. Lastly, of course, we need to heat up our rails here by connecting a red wire to power. So this is going to be 5-volt power. So that's VN, ground, 5 volts. And again, make sure that your power goes into the right bus. And then my ground wire, any of these are ground over here, my ground wire goes to the ground. Okay, so let's back it up a little bit so you can see it. Okay, now I should have mentioned have it unplugged whenever you connect it, because you don't want to be connecting something when the board is live. Should have mentioned that earlier. So now if I plug it in, okay, Hello World is running because that code is running on it. If you just run this code here, which is the Hello World, okay, then you should see it pop up here on the screen. And what it's doing is just printing the time. So it's printing our message here. So we can change that message. Okay, howdy world, and upload the code, and you'll see it pop up here. Howdy world. Okay, and then it's printing millis, which is the current time in milliseconds, divided by 1,000, which is the current time in seconds. All right. You probably, when you crank it up and start it up, you probably either saw this, nothing, or you saw this, nothing. You know, too much brightness, too much contrast. So to control the contrast, take your pot and change it so that it is just the right amount of contrast for you so you can read it. Again, don't freak out if it's like that or if it's black. It's probably because your pot needs to be turned closer toward the 0 end of the 10K scale. There you go. All right, that's it. And then we'll use this for a lot of sketches from now on. So if you wanted to, it kind of bothers me that there's so many pins here in between these 4 down here and these 11 and 12. So if you want to, you can consolidate. It also kind of bothers me that these go in order this way, and the wires cross, so you might want to reconfigure those pins. But don't forget, if you do move the pins around, if you do move the wires around and move them, say, down to here, for example, then you also need to come up here and change your code. So this is a comment block there, and RS is in pin 12, so you know, whatever you change it to, you need to change it maybe here so that you tell the world, you know, your programmers what the pins are, but then you need to change it down here as well so that you can tell Arduino what the pins are. All right? Okay, and then once it's set here in line 48, then you're set. Don't change this. You don't need to change that. And then we'll explain what this code does. You probably can figure it out. But that gets you set up, and that's what we're looking for, you know, for today's lesson.